Hello and welcome to our look ahead to what the papers will be bringing us tomorrow. With us are former State Department official Colleen Graffy and Kate Devlin, political correspondent at The Herald. Good to have you here tonight. The front pages then, starting with The Independent. It reports that David Cameron has threatened to veto the admission of new members to the European Union unless they accept controls on their citizens moving to the UK. The Mirror claims Nigella Lawson has reacted furiously to her former aides being cleared of fraud. It's going to be a white Christmas, according to the Daily Express. The Financial Times is calling the festive period a tale of two Christmases, comparing buoyant consumer spending with declining incomes and savings. The Telegraph's top story is that the Met Police Commissioner's decision not to investigate Nigella Lawson's confession to taking Class A drugs. The paper questions whether it amounts to a drugs amnesty for the middle class. Like the Mirror, the Sun reports on Nigella's fury after the court case involving her former assistants, the Grillo sisters. And that's where we'll begin with the Sun. The sub-eds have been having a good time with this headline, haven't they? Nigella's Grillo Paddy, raging telecook attacks the court system. And at times it did feel that she was on trial, Colleen, rather than being there as a prosecution witness.
Absolutely. She was on the witness stand almost as long as the defendants were, so I think it was quite a switch there. But what's interesting is that the American papers, the USA Today, for example, said when celebrity chefs cut themselves, how much they bleed is a matter of brand. And so they look at Nigella's brand. I don't know if you've heard of Paula Deen. Paula Deen was a very famous Southern-style chef, and she had some hiccups, and it has not gone well for her career. But they look at Nigella and say she's had a lot of style and panache. She tweeted a recipe to her supporters, and her ABC, I think it's Nigelissima, goes out this weekend, so they're not cutting it. She's going to be next season with Anthony Bourdain in The Taste, so that's going ahead. So it hasn't hurt her career in the US.
She does feel that there was a campaign being mounted to bring her down in some way because of the way that this court case was conducted.
She does, and it must have been very, very difficult indeed to go through the past couple of weeks and just have so much of your private life and your effectively disintegrating marriage be rigged over in the courts. But I have to say, I agree with Colleen. She says that there was a campaign out to destroy her and destroy her reputation. That campaign has failed. She is one of the few people to emerge from this with poise and a bit of grace. And I think most people, including the Prime Minister, as we saw a couple of days ago, sympathy is with Team Nigella.
And she did say, didn't she, that she'd rather be honest and ashamed than to lie about her when she'd used drugs.
She did, though I think that's probably something that you say afterwards. I'm not sure that everybody wants what goes on behind closed doors to be in the courts.
But she was under oath, wasn't she?
Yeah,
but she had to say.
But don't you think also it's part of her style that you know, she's sort of the sensuous exploration of the kitchen, and so it's not, doesn't kind of go against her brand that she's maybe has taken some drugs on some occasion. So it's not like she puts herself forward as squeaky clean individual.
So it doesn't sort of jar against her image, does it?
Yeah,
No.
I think.
I think that's what a lot of brand
yeah.
experts are saying, certainly, which is where the sort of comparison with Martha Stewart. Everyone knew that Martha Stewart was, you know, a very canny businesswoman. So when she ran into problems over tax,
Yeah.
Her fans were very forgiving.
Yeah, they were. As she said, it's harder to rebuild a brand than build a brand. So she had some difficulty, but she survived
One of the really interesting things that came out in the court case was that in part it was her marriage that seemed to be holding her back from going to the States, trying to become famous in the US. And that doesn't seem to be a problem anymore.
But I mean, I'm sure it will have a resonance with a lot of people who've appeared as witnesses in trials for various reasons. I mean, her assistants were cleared in the end. Of course, we've seen today they were found not guilty. But that sense
she was put on trial.
Yeah, it felt like that. And her children as well, that she obviously wanted to protect. Let's look at the Daily Telegraph, because they're taking a different line. I mean, the Sun just says she still may face questions from police over her admission that she took cocaine, but the Daily Telegraph is taking the other view that she's probably not going to be questioned. It doesn't appear she's going to be. Nigella legacy is the headline. Drugs amnesty for the middle class. Decision by Sir Bernard Hogan-Howe, the Metropolitan Police Commissioner, putting out what the paper regards as a strange statement, saying that, allegations would not be investigated at this stage. If they're not going to be investigated now with the case over, it makes you wonder, Colleen, whenever they will be.
Well, the thing is that the police are calling it an allegation, and they're calling it an allegation because until the transcript is given by the judge to the police, then they don't do anything about it. So if
it's not regarded as evidence.
Exactly. So until the judge gives them the transcripts, then they don't do it. It's only an allegation. And I don't think that the judge is going to do that. So that's where it stands.
But the question the paper poses, Kate, is whether this is an amnesty for a very beautiful, successful, popular TV chef who's middle class. If it were different, would it be different for somebody else who didn't enjoy those sort of
I think so. I absolutely
privileges?
think it would be different for somebody who was from a different class, for somebody who was much younger, who was maybe a teenager, perhaps. But I think this kind of amnesty goes on all the time, actually. And that's one of the things that's not talked about very much, the discretion that the police have and the choices they make as to who to prosecute for these kind of drug cases. And I do think that we need a much more honest discussion about drugs in this country and about the criminal procedures that we want to surround them.
And I would say it's not so much an amnesty for the middle class as an amnesty for celebrities, because Anthony Bourdain, another very famous celebrity chef, talks about drug use all the time, and it's part of his image that he can get away with it as the sort of bad boy of cooking. So, so I think a lot of it is really the celebrity effect, which I don't agree with either.
It also makes it more sort of tantalising, I suppose, to watch these programmes. If you've never been interested in what they're talking about before, the fact that this has been all over the press here and in the States, there'll be more people tuning in to see what the fuss is about.
For Nigella,